Anthropic is suing the Department of Defense now. Anthropic sues the Trump administration over supply chain risk designation for refusing autonomous weapons. Does the government's retaliation for these value-based product policies signal a dystopian precedent for AI regulation? Does that accelerate China's AI dominance? Is this actually about safety, or is it about something else? So we have a story here in The Verge. Anthropic is suing the Department of Defense. The Trump administration labeled Anthropic's AI a supply chain risk after the company wouldn't back down on acceptable uses of its tech for refusing autonomous weapons. And now they got a lawsuit out there. Does the government's retaliation for these value-based product policies signal a dystopian precedent for AI regulation? Probably yes. I mean, this is something that, at least in the US, the general idea was you have private companies, and the private companies can do whatever they want as long as it's within the bounds of the law. And the US government has an opportunity to use the services of the private companies if they want or not. And of course, they can try to influence them. They could say, hey, we'll give you money if you do this for us. There are government contracts to do that, et cetera. But like, using a big hammer like a supply chain risk is a very interesting move. It's an extremely heavy-handed move, and there's probably some kind of argument here, some kind of legal argument that you could make. But typically, the supply chain risk is reserved for other things that are like extremely sort of serious, or like you're relying on some other country with a regime that the U.S. doesn't have a good relationship with, or something like that, and that's your supply chain risk. This is a U.S.-based company, and that for the most part aligns with U.S. interests and all of that, except for on these couple things. And so them, really trying to force this is, a dystopian signal, at least. So people definitely have their, they've perked up their ears, as a result of this. And there's another question here. If Anthropic loses and gets blacklisted from U.S. defense contracts, does that accelerate China's AI dominance? And I think there's a real risk here. When you have these major players that are putting a lot of investment into progressing the frontier of AI, and the U.S. government can't use that progress, that's definitely setting the U.S. up for failure, or at least, lagging behind. Now, of course, they have to work out their differences here in how the technology would be used, but there are so many other use cases that could be used that don't fit into those couple categories that Anthropic is sort of up in arms about. That 99% or more probably use cases don't involve the things that they don't want the government to do. And then you'd be missing out on that in all these other areas, like in Social Security or Medicare or something like that, that could be helped by Claude and other products. So yeah, like when you look at the US as being in competition with other countries, and it totally is, like China is our nearest competitor from a GDP perspective. And they're about to overtake the US, basically. And if we keep hampering ourselves and saying, no, you can't use the latest technology, then we're not going to grow as fast. And when you don't grow as fast, then now you have a serious competitor in the world market. And we're sort of allowing that to happen. It's happening on our watch. Yeah, there's another question. Is this actually about safety, or is it about something else? You could see this maybe as Anthropic trying to get a higher premium out of the U.S. government, and maybe that's what's happening behind closed doors. I doubt it's that in this particular case, because we're talking about heightened awareness of a new war-like thing happening in Iran. And you have a bunch of Silicon Valley type builders in the company, and typically saying, hey, there's a reason I didn't go work for a defense contractor and instead I came to Anthropic and worked here. You, the company, said we're going to be building AI with safety in mind and with the public good in mind and that type of thing. And so they're doing that. Now, don't get me wrong. People that work for defense contractors in the government, they are probably looking at the world from a similar lens. But they might say, no, I'm okay with building missiles, or I'm okay with that type of thing. And but there is a difference there, typically in the population of your company, depending on where you work and the different values that you've stated as the company. So I think this one is definitely real. They're saying like, hey, we don't want our technology used for that. It can be just truly like coming from the heart of the founders of the company, and it probably is. But also it's a measure to like make sure that people aren't leaving their company. And also, if you want to attract talent from others like OpenAI, if you're Anthropic and you're trying to get great people to come from OpenAI to your company that are in line with your values, then this is a good way to do it. Make a public stance, do the PR for it, and then go recruit them and have them come over. So I think it's more along those lines. Like they truly believe that this is how the technology should or shouldn't be used. But then they get some benefits around this, where they can attract talent from other companies and say, hey, if you want to be doing this is the place where you could do it. But then they kind of want to have their cake and eat it too, which totally makes sense, where they're like, hey, there's so many other uses in the government for our technology. You should be using us for that. And that's what this is all about. Yeah, I think a lot of people out there have questions about how is this technology actually being used? Is it just a chatbot? Is it image recognition? Is it some other thing? And I think actually how most people in the US use AI today, where they use it kind of like a Google replacement or like a thought partner in planning something, or you want to take 45 minutes and just go down a rabbit hole and learn a lot about something, then this is a sparring partner in doing that. And yes, it's a lot of times in a chat interface where you're typing in order to do that, or maybe you're talking to it in order to do that. So I think probably the majority of uses of humans in the government using that technology looks like that. It's like chatbot type usage. But there will be extremely large sums of token usage to monitor shipping logs or whatever. Like you got to think about the government and all the systems that it has. It's taking in money from taxes. It's doling it out to Social Security and other things. It's trying to keep track of what's coming in through our borders, and there's an extremely large economic engine that's happening there, where you have container ships coming in, stuff leaving, all sorts of things. And they're looking around saying like, how it's all human powered right now, but is there some way that we can sort of speed this up, make it better? Where are the areas where we don't have enough people, where we can't attract enough talent to do it, where we've had to cut costs, et cetera? Can we inject AI over there? And so they're really, I think it's a tale of like two worlds here. There's lots of chatbot usage, which is like what most people think of as AI. It's talking with an LLM and planning things and figuring things out. But then there are entire systems that are built like, let's make our ports more efficient, or let's figure out how to dole out Medicare the right way and not send it to people who aren't around anymore, and that type of thing. So it's widespread usage, chatbots by every individual. But then there are spiking uses for individual or for use cases that are important to the government. And then I would say that second part is probably going to snowball and take over in the next couple of years to be the primary usage of AI from like a token count and spend perspective. It'll be, in other words, people would call this like workflows, underlying workflows in order to just make things work. But right now, I think most uses are like chatbot-esque. And Claude is doing a great job in both of those cases. If you want to learn more and keep up to date with this quickly advancing world of AI, go ahead and like, comment, and subscribe. There's new episodes every week.